Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman here, folks. Thanks for staying with us over the break. And so much going on the health front that I thought it would be really appropriate to bring back Dr. Peter McCullough. In my opinion, one of the greatest minds in the medical field today. One of the few who accurately called out the madness surrounding COVID and the injections and all of it early on, before it was the cool thing and the obviously correct thing to do. So a lot of respect for Dr. McCullough. He's an internist, a cardiologist, he's an epidemiologist, and he also works closely with the Wellness Company, one of our partners here. He is their chief medical officer and does a lot of great work with them there. He also has published in over 1,000 publications. He's got over 685 citations in the National Library of Medicine. The man is a true expert. He's testified multiple times in the U.S. Senate, in the House of Representatives. He's been very active in his home state of Texas. And he just does so much good work. And obviously, the House Select Committee on the coronavirus just released its massive investigation, over 500 pages. It's got some lessons, some recommendations on what happened during COVID. Dr. McCullough, thanks for joining us. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you back on the program. What is your initial takeaway from this massive Select Committee report on coronavirus?
Select Committee was zeroing in on the origins of SARS-CoV-2, the laboratory origins, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, its involvement, the National Institute of Allergy, Immunological Diseases, the NIH, Peter Daszak, EcoHealth Alliance, Ralph Barrick at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. But there's still so much more there. Independent reporter Jim Haslam has published a book on this. I never realized this, Alex. You know that NIAID has a 36-acre campus in Hamilton, Montana, where they were testing primordial SARS-CoV-2, trying to get it to infect Egyptian fruit bats, and published a paper on this in 2018. I completely missed it. That wasn't fully developed. What was the purpose of creating SARS-CoV-2 as a man-made virus? The committee made progress, but it also did some other things that simply just wasn't needed. I think this is Brad Wenstrup, who's the chair, who just inserted this. For instance, there's a statement that the COVID vaccines saved millions of lives with no randomized trial showing mortality benefits, no valid observational study showing that. There's no regulatory claims in the consent forms or FAQs that the vaccines save lives. There's no reason to put in a false statement like that, a big false statement, in a report like this, a government report. And it also praised Operation Warp Speed. And many still question the rationale of rushing forward, particularly with unsafe and ineffective vaccines.
So on the recommendations front, Dr. McCullough, and I share all your concerns about the alleged benefits of the vaccine, and it's just unbelievable after everything we know now that they're still claiming these things. But one thing that a lot of people have been concerned about is accountability, right?
Mhm.
We had our rights taken away. We had a huge segment of the American population demonized beyond anything I've ever seen in my life. We had people excluded from public spaces. We had tyranny like we've never seen in human history. I mean, at least in that shape. And yet there really aren't a whole lot of recommendations for holding people seriously accountable for this. We do have a new administration coming in with some people who were outspoken, at least in some of these positions during the COVID pandemic. What are your thoughts on the possibility of having some accountability in this second Trump administration, and especially in light of the picks that Trump has made so far?
Americans wanted to see a special counsel assigned, and that wasn't in there as a recommendation. And I know some advising Trump and others close in his circles, particularly Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, will almost certainly be in the mindset of having special prosecutors and investigations, with targets and subjects and witnesses for the origins of SARS-CoV-2. That'd be prosecutor number one. Number two is the suppression of early multi-drug treatment, and even very good Operation Warp Speed treatments that were suppressed, like monoclonal antibodies. And then probe number three would be on the COVID-19 vaccines. And the issues there are fraud. Who did defraud the American public, both public, private, and others. And then also mass negligent homicide. People did die due to these vaccines. And it did occur, at the hands of those who are promoting them. So without those special prosecutors in place, kind of that three-pronged approach for justice, Americans are left disappointed with what they've seen so far.
Yeah, and there's several questions that flow right from that. I want to start with the COVID vaccine, so called. There's obviously growing momentum to recall this. We've got lawsuits. We've got more and more governments. Now, we've got some of them actually recalled. AstraZeneca has been pulled
Mhm.
from the shelves. And yet the FDA is now recommending, I think it's the 11th booster, if I'm not mistaken. It might even be the 12th. I've lost track at this point, but not a lot of people are taking them. Do you think there needs to be a recall? Should these things be pulled from the shelves based on the available evidence?
There definitely needs to be a recall. There are still some people effectively forced into them. You know who's really getting these shots, Alex, are the children who live in these states where they mandate the full CDC ACIP routine childhood vaccine schedule. That's California, New York, Connecticut, um, West Virginia, and I believe Maine. I mean, this is horrible. So it's actually children who are getting experimental messenger RNA shots where there's no opportunity for benefit, just a potential accumulation of the genetic material and the dangerous spike protein that's produced in their bodies. A formal recall needs to happen because that's going to bring to the end this vaccine campaign. Remember the 1976 swine flu vaccine with no safety systems, no internet, no Twitter, just good old common sense. About a quarter of the population took the swine flu shot. Was clearly not safe. They pulled it off the market. Vaccines out of the gate rarely are safe. The very first smallpox vaccine was contaminated, loaded with problems. Same thing with polio, had a sputtering start with the Cutter incident and this kind of mass contamination with the live polio vaccine. Vaccines out of the gate typically have safety problems. These clearly did, and they should be pulled off the market.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more based on everything I've seen. And of course, my dad took this and his heart stopped literally the next day. So I've
Oh,
had enough of these
God.
things. It's just terrible. Dr. McCullough, going back to the COVID Select Committee report, there was some addressing of the World Health Organization. But I mean, even just
Mhm.
reading between the lines, it's very obvious now that the World Health Organization got it wrong from the beginning, over and over and over again. They took measures that ended up contributing to the spread of this thing. We have a new team coming in January 20th. And of course, the last time around, Trump was pretty hostile to the World Health Organization. Now, I just got back from Azerbaijan. The head of the World Health Organization was there blabbering about how climate change is now the biggest threat to public health. I was able to interview the director of the Department of Public Health and Climate Change at the WHO. Same thing. Climate change is the big deal. What do you think should be done with the WHO? I mean, obviously they have diplomatic immunity; they can't be prosecuted. But what should be done with the WHO vis-a-vis the United States, vis-a-vis the Trump administration? And is there any way to bring about some accountability for this just absolute absurdity that we saw starting in late 2019, early 2020?
Americans should realize the WHO uses a global communication system called National Focal Points. The one in the United States and Canada is called PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization. That's how they get out these narratives on the same day, Alex. You remember through the pandemic, they had one narrative. It came out the same day worldwide, and the mantra was, no one is safe. Remember that? It was on every single TV station simultaneously. Another one came out later on that said, it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. We learned that these were coordinated through WHO, which is essentially a giant propaganda machine, and that propaganda is also being generated for climate change. And while I'm not an expert in this area, it used to be called global warming, but now we realize the world isn't warming anymore. So the title's been, the mantra's been subtly changed to climate change. Well, the jury's out on this. If the new administration issues, more scientific review of this, that's perfectly fine. I think the United States ought to withdraw from the WHO. As a doctor, I don't receive any help from that organization whatsoever. They've caused great harm, and it's a not-for-profit organization that we don't have to participate in. We should pull out.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, and of course they have a lot of contacts and relationships with the big pharmaceutical companies and the Bill Gates of the world, and of course the CCP. We were able to ask them about that, and we just got a big word salad meaning nothing. Obviously, they were well trained in how to say a lot of words without actually
Mhm.
saying anything. But no, I agree with you, and I do hope Trump will seriously look at this going into his second term. Now, Dr. McCullough, you were involved in a hugely significant case that is being considered at the Supreme Court right now. You worked in the state of Texas with the state of Texas to protect young people from these quack so-called medical treatments, castration for little boys, hysterectomies, double mastectomies for girls, things that even 10 years ago everybody would have recognized as insane and criminal. Where do you think this is going? Give us a little background on the case, and then where do you think
Mhm.
it's going? Where should it go?
Texas is one of 25 states that's banned transgender care for minors under age 18 because transgender care, the puberty blockers, hormones, and surgeries, they worsen the psychiatric burden of disease. Most of the kids have autism to begin with. They get much worse with this. They're sterilizing, disfiguring, and they increase the risk of all-cause mortality. So I helped Attorney General's office, Ken Paxton, with a scientific report on this. Ultimately, Texas overturned stays on this and ultimately had the ban come through. Now, HHS Assistant Secretary in his final few months, Richard Levine, who parades around America as Rachel Levine. He's a man who is living out his sexual fantasy as a woman. And he's trying to actually impress his ideology on America in the US Supreme Court by overturning the ban on transgender care for minors in the state of Tennessee and have that sweep across the country. So I think that people should look at this very carefully that if states can't determine and assure safety for their children and safeguard their children from the harms of transgender medicine, they should be greatly alarmed that the federal level this is attempting to be overturned. You're right. 5 or 10 years ago, none of this existed. It's complete madness. No ethical doctor, nurse, or administrator would participate in a clinical and surgical program that causes harm. The cure to gender dysphoria in these autistic children is to let them go through natural puberty and then they evolve naturally into men and women. Later on, they can make their sexual choices as adults, but not to do irreversible harm during childhood. Above all, in medicine, do no harm.
Yeah, man, that was the Hippocratic oath, right? Even I,
Mhm.
as a non-doctor, know that. I want to ask you about the medical literature, the evidence here. I know you've looked at it, like you said, you did the scientific report. Because you hear from the transgender movement that, well, your child's going to kill himself or she's going to kill herself if you don't start chopping off body parts and putting them on all the hormones and puberty blockers. And yet that doesn't seem to be what they're finding in Scandinavia. That doesn't seem to be what they're finding in the
Mhm.
United Kingdom. What is the evidence you've seen on this show so far?
The evidence is that this gender dysphoria, which is, it occurs in way less than 1% of children to begin with. So it's very rare. Children, feel very good about themselves growing up in the vast majority, but there's a tiny fraction of individuals, almost largely those with autism or autism spectrum disorder, that have some degree of ambiguity or discomfort with their gender as they approach puberty. What we've learned is that suicidal ideation is common in children. Probably about 15% of adolescents would say, "Yeah, I contemplate it." This is now being used as an artificial wedge by counselors, teachers, sometimes other relatives, psychologists, to parents saying, listen, if the child doesn't go down this gender journey, they're going to commit suicide. And then parents feel stuck, particularly single parents. And I've had them tell me this. What they need to understand is to hold strong that the risk of suicide or homicide or death from all causes, from a paper from the UK that was in JAMA, it's clear, is actually worse if they go through the transgender journey. It's worsened. The best thing to do is cognitive behavioral therapy with counseling. Let the children progress through normal puberty. All these hormones and puberty blockers actually create erratic behavior. And if you remember, Alex, there's been some mass shootings from these transgender kids on hormones.
Yeah. Yep, and including the one in Tennessee that shot up the
Right,
Presbyterian school there, murdered a bunch of kids.
right.
Folks, do some digging on it. We just had last week on this program Jeff Younger, whose own son now was ordered to be castrated by a court in Texas, and the government in California. It's just absolutely horrific. Um, Switching gears a little bit, Dr. McCullough, we have heard a nonstop drumbeat about disease X all
Mhm.
this year. I mean, all 2024, it has just been nonstop with this disease X. There's been conferences on it. Is it the bird flu? Is it the Marburg? In fact, just 2-3 days ago, a major article in Insight, a major medical site, saying that Marburg virus is a disease X pandemic candidate. Obviously, they're still pumping up the fear porn for the next pandemic and how we deal with the next pandemic. Are you concerned that we might see another pandemic, whether gain of function research plays a role or not? I mean, how concerned are you? How concerned should we be? We know they're killing animals across the country now, claiming that bird flu is being found. How concerned are you, and how concerned should we be?
I'm greatly concerned that a next pandemic will come out of a gain of function research lab, a so called biolab. Most of these are government or foundation funded. Our work at McCullough Foundation has been published in the peer reviewed literature, has shown that the recent strain of bird flu that's circulating, that jumped into mallard ducks and migratory waterfowl, that's reinfecting farms over and over again, that actually is a product of gain of function research. It came out of the USDA research lab in Athens, Georgia. And so it is foolhardy to kill healthy chickens as a biosecurity measure because the farms keep getting reinfected over and over again. Bird flu has been around 100 years. I went to the bird flu summit, the one that was held in Arkansas. Bottom line is, there's been about 10,000 birds maybe that have died with bird flu, yet they've killed tens of millions of healthy birds and driven up the cost of eggs, for instance. So you can see that in this case with bird flu, which the cases in humans are very seldom, and it involves some pink eye. We haven't had a death due to bird flu ever in humans in the United States history. That it's simply a fictitious human threat, and yet WHO and former White House um, uh, advisor Rick Bright and others have been out there, fear mongering over bird flu. In fact, the US government has blown taxpayer dollars on bird flu vaccines with Moderna and CSL Seqirus and other companies. This is a gross hyperbolic reaction to a non-threat. Marburg virus has also been around for a long time, Ebola, Nipah. We have good understanding of these. Most of the more serious infections are ones that have very limited outbreaks, and we have good approaches to these. None of these need a vaccine, and we certainly don't need to kill animals.
Amen. And one of the things that should have really been, I think, front and center in the coronavirus select committee report was the role of the NIH in this, and they did address the grants to EcoHealth Alliance and stuff. But I mean, the deputy director of the NIH testified under oath that they were funding gain of function research in Wuhan at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Are you satisfied that we've got enough protections in place now to prevent something ridiculous like this happening again?
Not at all, Alex. The Biden administration in May of 2024 put out their guidance for what's called dual purpose pathogens of pandemic potential, meaning that the next pandemic virus is being developed in labs all over the United States and all over the world. And the rules for this are very loose. And most of it is just voluntary reporting. Uh, Biosecurity is not assured whatsoever. I think a new NIH director and a new leadership, set of positions. First thing they ought to do is ban gain of function research. Just ban this dual pathogen research. We don't need to develop pathogens to anticipate a pandemic and create vaccines. It's a futile strategy. It's risking the health of populations. We need to clear these biolabs of threats to Americans, and the NIH should do it. Not just eliminate the funding, but actually outlaw this dangerous research.
Yeah, and that sounds so common sense, to a layman like me. Like, why wouldn't we do that? Why would we want them weaponizing viruses? I mean, it just
Right.
it boggles the mind. With that, I got to ask you about Robert F. Kennedy. Of course, he's been a guest here. We have had some nice conversations with him. I'm really impressed with him and his ideas. The fake media is attacking him as an anti-vaxxer, and your kids are going to die if he gets in there. What are your thoughts on RFK? Is he the right man for the job? And what do you think ought to be some of his priorities going into this? And let's address this childhood vaccine thing. Is Robert F. Kennedy right to be raising these concerns that the media acts like he's some sort of monster for talking about?
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been a longstanding Democratic environmentalist. He's been concerned regarding the health of water and food and farming and glycosaphates, and he has a broad range of interests. He's perfect for the U.S. Food and Drug Administration oversight that occurs from the Department of Health and Human Services. So, as a member of Trump's cabinet, I think he'll be an iconic person. He'll probably be actually one of the biggest people in the cabinet because HHS has over a dozen reporting sub-agencies like CDC, NIH, FDA, USDA. And very importantly, what Kennedy has said is he's going to demand transparency and he's going to demand safe products. So if the vaccine industry, which is a $78 billion industry, by the way, $78 billion, if they want to have their products used in Americans, it should only be by free choice, no mandates. And then, very importantly, they should be safe products. And the companies have to prove they're safe products. And they should have liability for, side effects and things that happen when things go wrong. So removing the 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Act liability shield, you probably see a lot of companies pull off these antiquated vaccines off the market. The market would thin out very, very quickly. No mandates whatsoever. So then it's free choice about who takes these for personal protection, the theoretical protections of vaccines. And then Americans can feel secure again. I think Kennedy will also do some great things regarding safety of the water supply and food supply.
Yep. And again, this stuff just seems so common sense. It's not partisan. It's not ideological. Just, hey, if you're going to make vaccines, you ought to be held responsible when something goes really wrong. Hey, they ought to be safe. You wouldn't think that would be a Republican or Democrat issue. It's just basic common sense. So I hope we'll see some great things from him. Dr. McCullough, I know we're almost out of time. You are doing some great work over at the Wellness Company. We partner with you guys. We have all kinds of the great kits that you guys have, the medical emergency kit. But talk to us a little bit about the Wellness Company, your work there, and how people can take advantage of those services, whether it be the telehealth or the medical kits, or even if they foolishly took one of these injections and they now regret it. You guys have some great products to help deal with that.
Well, this company's been a wonderful innovation that was born out of the pandemic now, nearly 3 years old, offers nutraceuticals and supplements, telemedicine, health education and media, now emergency kits. And the kits are so valuable. I had a patient this week develop COVID-19, high fever, elderly patient. We went on the scramble and she goes, Dr. McCullough, I have the black kit. What do I do? And she had all the drugs right there, got going on it. She's doing fine now. She's doing fine because she had the kit. I told her, listen, you used up a few of the medicines, use the Wellness Company refill program for the kits. Now the Wellness Company has memberships, and at the middle and highest levels, there's free prescriptions and free supplements. This is a tremendous value. My wife and I are members, and so we get our prescription drugs for free and supplements for free. And the featured supplement now is the Ultimate Spike Detox. This is McCullough Protocol based spike detoxification with nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin. Almost everybody with long COVID and those who took the vaccines are going to want to use this product to give the body the best chance of clearing the dangerous spike protein from the virus that's been loaded into the human body.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of these things too. I'll tell you what, I got 3 of the kits right here. I love them. We've got the contagion emergency kit, the travel kit, the medical emergency kit. It's great stuff. And folks, when you use the promo code Newman, you're actually going to get a 10% discount on any of those things. So do go check it out. It's at twc.com/Newman. Health. Dr. McCullough, what's the best way for people to follow your work? Do you have a social media account where people can? I mean, you're following like all of these issues that are so important,
Hmm.
so critical, not just for ourselves but for our families. What's the best way to stay on top of the great work? And of course, you have a Substack, which I want to recommend people
Hmm.
sign up for. I get it every day. It's fantastic. Best way to follow your work.
My personal website's a good base link tree, so petermcculloughmd.com. That'll take you everywhere. Courageous Discourse Substack. Everybody should sign up for it. Get those free emails every day. Gives you the late breaking trials, abstracts, key interviews. My podcast, America Out Loud Talk Radio, McCullough Report, every weekend and on the podcast circuit. I do Pulse. I answer the nation's questions on healthcare Wednesday evenings at 5 p.m. on America Out Loud Pulse. Follow me on social media. I've got the Top Doctor account of doctors who really see patients, specialists in the office. I'm #1 out there in the world. I'll answer people as best I can. I'm always posting on social media as you are. And we're working together to bring America and the world the truth in a time where there's such deception and corruption and fraud going on, and the people across the globe know it. And so they're seeking us out, Alex, for the truth.
Dr. McCullough, I can't thank you enough. I don't know how you find time to do all of it, but you truly are a treasure. The world owes you a great debt of gratitude. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for making a little bit of time for us today. We really appreciate it. God bless you, sir, and please keep up the great work.
Thank you.
All righty, folks. That is all we have time for today, but I do want to encourage you, go sign up for Dr. McCullough's Substack, Courageous Discourse. It's really, really good. He works with another guy, John Leake, who does phenomenal work. Follow him on X. He's got a huge account, always posting really, really great stuff there. And of course, twc.health/Newman, or use that promo code Newman. You can get access to all kinds of great stuff like this with a nice discount for using that promo code. And I'll tell you what, me and my family rely on it now. And with all the craziness going on in the world today, I would really recommend checking it out. Also, go to our website, libertysentinel.org, libertysentinel.org. You can sign up for our newsletter absolutely free. We actually have news items that we're posting there every day. The most important stuff happening, not just in the United States, but around the world. Everything you need to keep yourself healthy, happy, and free. And that's all we have time for today on this episode of the Sentinel Report. But I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for all that you do for God, family, and country. And God willing, we shall talk to you again very soon. Until then, thanks for watching, and God bless you all.